Hi, I'm Klenda. For those of you who don't know me, I'm an illustrator on the Ultraman card game, and today Tsuburaya has asked me to take you guys behind the scenes and show you my process for making the Ultraman Z playing card coming out soon. This card is 100% hand-painted, which means that it was wilds to work on, and I cannot wait to show you guys how the process went. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So I start by scribbling 5 or 10 really rough ideas in my sketchbook, then picking 3 favorites and sketching them digitally with more detail. I prefer digital for any concept art that I'm doing since it just lets me play more, like trying different environments or changing sizes or rotating stuff without destroying the whole thing. I also block in things like light source and values in these sketches since I have trouble seeing pictures in my head, so it just helps me figure out how the painting's gonna feel. I knew I wanted something that showcases just how massive Z is, so I sent this in for approval, and once the art team gave the green light, I started on full-scale drawing. I always work on tracing paper for this phase because everything erases super easily, and if you draw directly onto watercolor paper, you can stain or damage it before you even get to the paint. Plus, with transfer paper, you can transfer your drawing directly, which I'll do in a second. I wanted the piece to feel really grounded, so I'm referencing a real street, real plane models, and other real details to make the scene feel lived in while I pick out Zet's details and perspective. Speaking of perspective, I was pushing Zet's perspective pretty far initially, so the good folks at Tsuburaya asked me to have his upper half a little bit bigger just so you could see him a little better. So I redrew the upper half on separate tracing paper, erased the body on the big paper, then just slid the new sketch underneath and traced that onto the big drawing. The way I paint means that I do line art at the very end, so the inking phase for me was transferring my cleaned pencils to the new paper. I flipped my paper and lined the back of my drawing with super soft lead pencil, which would transfer easily without smudging. This took a while, but I did not want to risk staining the watercolor paper. So after I finished, I flipped the drawing again and taped it over my watercolor paper to transfer, which I did by tracing my lines again. After that, I went back over the drawing and adjusted some of the line art, both to darken some lighter areas and to clean up anything that went wonky over 2 layers of trace and transfer. You can see me referencing my collage of photos, just double checking and making sure I hadn't missed anything or gotten a detail wrong. I wanted a very warm feel to this since Zed is such a warm person, and his blue contrasts really well with warm sunset colors, so I put down just a layer of warm over everything except for his eyes so I could keep those really bright. Since I'm using watercolors, I'm working in thin layers, starting translucent and faded for the background, and slowly getting more dark and saturated as we get closer to the viewer. It helps with depth, and it helps me control how much focus Zed gets visually, since I can make it so nothing else gets as much contrast as he does. I had maybe too much fun jumping between all the details here, from the smoke in the buildings to all the broken windows to the dented car and the light of the street lamp, and yes, I did rewatch Zet's finale while working on this, and maybe I cried a little bit. At this point, I do my line art to make the forms just feel more distinct and clear, which is super important on something as small as a playing card. And there you have it! And here is the finished painting. This card and a bunch of others by incredible artists who I truly cannot believe I got to work with is going to be available in Booster Pack 4 Gleam of Eternal Hope, which comes out Friday, August 1st, 2025. If you don't have any playing cards yet, you might want to start with the Starter Pack. And Starter Pack 3 Omega to the Future comes out July 25th, 2025, which, boy howdy am I excited for that. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for making a very real dream of mine come true. Have a good one.